Okay, I'm going to get started because we have a very exciting agenda for today, and I will talk about that. But first, what I'd like to do is do some introductions. I am Janie Payne, and I am the chairperson of the SECAC Executive Board for 2023 and 24. We have Jamie Atherson Como, who is our vice chair, and Jamie bears his hand. We have Frederica DeFree, who is our secretary. LaMonica Jones, who is our treasurer. And Sarah Whalen, who supports us as our ex officio advisor. For our outreach committee, and I'm gonna do a shout out to our parents to see if anybody might be interested in being the chair of outreach, to please let either Jamie or myself know, because that chair seat is vacant. We have Jen Gagler, Andrea Keene, and Kay Taylor, who are all part of that outreach committee. And our Prince George's County advisors are Trinell Bowman, who is the Associate Superintendent for the Department of Special Education. We also have Karen Andrews, who is the Director of the Department of Special Education. We have Beth Hare, Instructional Specialist, Family Engagement. Marcy Torshawn, who is our Program Coordinator, Family Engagement, and Yvette Young, Social Worker for the Family Support Center. And so for our agenda this evening, we will first hear from Trinell, who will give us the updates from the Special Education Department. She'll share those with us, and I'm so excited to introduce to you, after Trinell, we have Marlo Denise Lemon, who is the Co-Deputy Director of Training and Strategic Partnerships for the Parents Place of Maryland. She's our first guest speaker. And following Marlo, we'll hear from Beth, we'll hear from Marcy and Yvette in the order in which they so choose, from our Family Support Center. And following that, I'll open it up to any Q&A that our parents might want to engage in, and then any comments that you might have, and then our closing and final thoughts. So that's our agenda for this evening. So without further ado, Trinell, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Janie. I did want to recognize one of our board members from District 3, Pamela Boozer-Schroeder. I don't know if you want to bring any greetings, board member.
Thank you so much. Yes, I would. Great to be back. It's been quite a few months since I've joined one of the sessions. I'm Pamela Boozer-Struther. I'm one of the elected board members from District 3. That's the Mount Rainier, Hyattsville, Langley Park, Adelphi area of the county. If you're not familiar with our number system, I am a parent of a now 8th grader at Hyattsville Middle School. I am invested in this work. It impacts our family personally as well. And I just, over my years of serving on the board, have found the SECAC to be one of the most informative and impactful aspects of parent engagement and community engagement in our system. So I wanted to come and support and just thank you all for all your hard work, and welcome the new volunteer leaders. Thank you so much for serving. And I'll if you have chat open tonight, I'll put my contact information in there. If you'd like to catch up one-on-one about my service on the board, I would be happy to do that. So thank you so much, Ms. Bowman.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing greetings. It's wonderful to see all of you out here. And I did want to acknowledge that some of our team members are not with us tonight due to some family things that have come up. So I've excused them and said that Marcy and I will take care of SECAC tonight. Just again, always want to acknowledge our board members as well as our superintendent, Millard House, for the work that they do in guiding us and ensuring that our policies are inclusive and have equity for all students, including those with disabilities. I just have a few updates to share. The first thing I wanted to share with you is the Hanover Research Survey link. Those of you who are signed up for our PGCPS newsletter should have received this already. If you're also signed up to receive announcements from the district, you should have gotten it that way. But I also wanted to make sure that I brought it here to you this evening for you to take the survey around school climate and culture, that your voice does matter. And as part of our strategic plan, there are specific goals that address climate and culture that we look at across the district and monitor. So when you get the actual PowerPoint, you'll be able to go right to that Hanover Research link. We do have a third-party partner that's actually compiling the data for us. So I just wanted to make sure. And then you can also be entered for a $50 gift card if you so choose to. Just some upcoming events I wanted to share that we will have for our fall mini conference. We will have a dyslexia speaker, Dr. Joyce Cooper-Kahn, who was with us last year. She was so well received from our families and parent and community members that we wanted to bring her back again this year. And so you can scan the QR code there, and it will give you the registration link. She'll be with us on Thursday, November 2nd, to really talk about dyslexia, the signs, things to look for. We also have a behavior changes support group. I believe this is our third or fourth year with that support group, where we really are working with parents who may have children with challenging behaviors. And we'll have 2 sessions coming up. We're running those monthly, but just a really great opportunity to really talk to families who may have similar concerns and issues at home, and really working with our board certified behavior specialists, psychologists, and our family support staff to really engage in that robust support group. And then we're continuing with our IEP backpack series. Again, everything you want to know about the IEP, and we have 2 upcoming sessions, one Thursday, November 9th, as well as Thursday, January 11th. And again, we'll continue to communicate this both on our PGCPS website, our social media outlets, as well as our listserv. So those are some upcoming events. And then on the next slide, we wanted to let you know we're having our annual Parent Empowerment Conference. So please mark your calendars for March 16th through April 20th. It will be a hybrid of in-person as well as virtual sessions. So please save the date for those dates and series. We had such a great turnout last year with our annual Autism Summit. Well received, that we are continuing that again this year, and that will be on April 20th, 2024. So please save the date for that. And then we'll have our Maryland Special Education Parent Survey will be released usually around February or March. So be on the lookout for that. And that's really, really important, again, to hear our family's voice and how we can improve. One of the big pieces that we're working on through our strategic plan is family engagement. So we have spent some time as a leadership team to really talk through case studies, what we can do to improve parent engagement. And then we'll be going on the road with our school teams, administrators, as well as our special ed teachers, general education teachers, et cetera, to really talk about parents as our partners and how we can engage our parents. Again, we really depend on this parent survey to really kind of shape and guide how we support families in the future. And then, of course, working with our SECAC exec board to really hone in on those focus areas. And those conclude my update. Here's my contact information so that you have that. So I think I'm going to pass it on back to Janie to introduce again our speaker for tonight.
Thank you so much, Chanel. I'm so excited about all of the opportunities that we have that the county is providing us, and would just encourage everyone to participate to the extent you can. It's very important. And I've learned being on this journey and having a granddaughter who is in special education, that you can never know too much. It's definitely a learning journey. And so taking advantage of what's offered, I think is a critical part of our role as parents. To that end, we can never know as much about, I've been dealing with IEPs for over 10 years now and still learning about them. And so I'm excited that there's going to be a backpack series on IEPs, and that's sort of a next step for what we're going to hear today from our experts. And as we advertise this session, we were talking about, the IEP process and beginning to learn more about that, or if you already know about it, the experts will provide some additional information that might help us. And so we have our experts here, and they will have some time to talk to both of us. We will start with Ms. Lemon, who is the Co-Deputy Director of Training and Strategic Partnerships for the Parents Place of Maryland. And Ms. Lemon, I'd like you to talk a bit about the Parents Place in your role, and then if you could then move into your presentation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Payne, for the invitation. Thank you to everyone, the family, parent engagement staff and team that I've been in meetings with, and for Dr. Bowman, board members. I just appreciate the invitation to speak. And I'm so glad, Ms. Payne, that you said you can hear the information over and over and over again, and sometimes you still need additional information. What we know is that typically every July 1st, we have changes to the IEP document itself. So it's always good to hear information. So I was elated when I saw that you all were doing a backpack series, because when you have parents that might not be in the education field, they really just need to hear the information and know about their rights. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. So the title of my presentation is IEP Basics. I am Marlo Lemon. I'm Co-Deputy Director of Training and Strategic Partnerships, but I always like to say my greatest title is wife and mother. I have 3 children who you'll see a little bit later on in the slides. And I work for the Parents Place of Maryland. And it's always interesting to me when we, quote unquote, take our show out on the road, because so many parents and families might not have heard about us. We service the state of Maryland. We are a small but mighty group. We are Maryland's Parent Training Information Center. And our mission is, we are not advocates. Our mission is to empower parents and families, because parents and families are the longest standing people at the IEP table. You can go to 5 different schools throughout your child's career, but you will always be the person that has the child's history. So our job is to empower parents and families so that when they go into the IEP meetings, they feel like of course, that they are the expert on their child. So our goal is to empower families to be partners in improving the life of their children with special healthcare needs and with disabilities. And we're, of course, committed to diversity and equity. As I've said, we've been around for over 30 years. We were governed by a board, and our board all have children with developmental delays or special healthcare needs. We are Maryland Parent Training and Information Center. All of our services are free. We are a nonprofit. What makes us unique is the fact that when parents and families call us or email us or contact us on our website, typically everyone that responds back has a child with a disability or special healthcare needs. So I can say, I understand, we've been in it, and let's try to figure it out. We provide one-on-one services and assistance to families. So if you know that you have a meeting coming up December 15th, reach out to our office. When you reach out to our office, either you can call or do contact us right on our website, which is ppmd.org. A parent educator will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. At that time, you can send in a copy of the IEP and we can go through it with you. So, these are some of the questions that you might want to ask. We've had parents and families come in and say, what's expressive versus receptive language? What's purposeful play? What do they mean by transition goals? So a lot of times what we notice is, when you're sitting at the table, it can be intimidating, and they're like, yes. And then sometimes they come to us because they really don't understand. Some parents and families might not understand some of the things that's being shared or asked of them. We share resources. We are in all 24 school systems. So we go from Allegheny County, which is almost in West Virginia, down to Ocean City. So we definitely can help. We always say every system has a different programs in offices and wording that's established, but the law is the law is the law. We have topical trainings. We have, what is doors in the transition process. We have leadership trainings where we work with parents birth to 5 and then starting at transition age from 14 to 21. Our services run through 26. So if we birth to 26. And Maryland is the 8th largest state for military families. So we have a staff member who we call her our resident expert on military. She's married military, grew up military, because think about your child having a special need and you're getting ready or you're deployed, or, the grandparent is raising the child. They add a certain level that really you have to have expertise in TRICARE and so many other things. So we try to help everybody. We help parents and families understand their child's disability and healthcare needs, communicate with the school. On our website, our executive director, Renee, really prides herself on making sure our documents are at a 4 to 5 readability level. So the law can be mammoth and massive. So really breaking it down, we have sample templates on our website for parents and families. I have to call an IEP meeting. I don't know how to do that. So we have sample letters and things on our website that parents can have. We help parents and families obtain services for their children, let them know what's in the area, so community resources, and to resolve disagreements with the school or agencies. So today, I'm going to quickly just share, I shared information with you about PPMD, so that's a check, a brief history of special education, and that'll be really brief because I was glad that Marcy and I got a chance to talk in the beginning, and I'm so excited that it's a pulling together of our resources and your family support area, because that's where parents and families know and come first. And I'm sad I don't see Yvette today because she shares so many of the wonderful things that are going on in Prince George's County when she comes to our meetings. Review IEP basics and discuss parent roles in meetings. I said that my most important role, it doesn't matter, I'm a former teacher and used to work at MSDE and in Baltimore and Howard counties. My most important role is right here on the screen. These are my 3 children. I call them my double blessing and little surprise. My twin boys are 18, which I cannot believe, and my daughter is 17. Both of my young men started in infants and toddlers when they were 17 months. So we have come through the system from infants and toddlers all the way up now. My youngest twin, who is the tallest one on the right, has autism. He's significantly impacted. We have every possible service that you can think of. I call him my gentle giant. He's the happiest non-verbal child I know. I was checking the time. And his brother, Joshua, on the other side, proud to say I'm the mom of a freshman in college. He has dyslexia and ADD. And then there's my Victoria, who's a senior now. So you all just keep me in positive thoughts and prayers. I'm sorry. So just a brief history about special education, because what we have, and I heard someone say, I think it was Ms. Payne, talk about just it's inclusive environment. And when we think about special education, one of the reasons why we start with this is it's a basic civil rights. So when you think about 1975, IDEA was passed, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was passed, and that guaranteed children with special needs a right to free and appropriate public education. Then in 1986, it was reauthorized to include Part C, which is infants and toddlers. You know, some people, family, they realize, you know what, oh, some people realize that children have special needs before they go to school. Let's incorporate them into the law. In 1990, it was ADA, and that provided a clear and comprehensive national mandate to eliminate discrimination against people with disabilities. 1997, IDA was amended and reauthorized to include that transition plan. So now we have birth up to transition, so around age 21. And then in 2004, that's what the law that we're under now, and the purpose was to, I highlight 2004 because this is what it says: to ensure that all children with disabilities have available to them FAPE, which is a free and appropriate public education that emphasizes special education and related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare them for future education, employment, and independence. So that's when we go into the older children, the transition goals that they're talking about, you know, what's going to happen after 21. So disability is a natural part of the human process. So we really like to start with just a brief education on special education and the laws and how it is definitely a civil right. So this was just talking what I just read, the purpose of IDA. And I want to highlight FAPE, which is in red, and meet the unique needs. So my Matthews IEP should definitely be different than Miss Payne's granddaughter's IEP. It should be uniquely designed for the individual it is meant for. Maryland law is COMAR, and this is basically what it says. It's developed and reviewed. And I would like to say for transition, federally, the law is 16, but in Maryland, we start transition at age 14. This is a quick, and again, we have this in detail on our fact sheets on our website, but this is a side-by-side. Several parents often ask, you know, what's the difference between a 504 and an IEP? And, you know, when do I have to, you know, if I feel like my child might need a little bit more, what does it mean? What does it look like? So this is just a side-by-side comparison of the 504 and the IEP. There is no funding behind the 504. So for example, if your young person or your child might need a seat accommodation, they might need to sit up front or need large print. Cognitively, there is no, you know, problem or issue. They might have a 504. So I'm not going to read all of these. I do the enforcement of the 504 is the Office of Civil Rights. However, IDEA is the state education agency, which is the Maryland State Department of Education for us. When we are talking to parents, we always say, you are the expert. You are her mom or her dad, you know her best. At times, it can be extremely intimidating going into an IEP meeting, sitting around the table, and you see all these people who are, you know, have so many credentials behind their name. And I always like to say, you are MOM or DAD, grandma, you know the child best. So that's your role at that table. So you are, we tell parents and families that you are highly qualified. The law is written so that it gives you the right to attend the meetings. You have the one-on-one in-depth knowledge and relationship of the child. You know what might set them off and what might make them happy. And research shows that when parents and families are involved in special education in their child's journey, that the outcomes for them are so much greater. Look at me, there's a line. Parents are entitled to sit in the young child or young person's IEP, to attend the meetings. They are a member of the team. Decisions should be made with the parent at the table, especially if there's a decision about placement that needs to be made. Video conferencing, phone conferences, since COVID, a lot of Zoom, but parents should be in the decision-making process at the team. Parents have the right to not only participate in the meetings, but of course, get the evaluations, identification, talk about the placement. A placement should not be predetermined before a team is met, because this goes back to every young person deserving FAPE, which is free and appropriate public education, and they are entitled, parents are entitled to a say in the disability code or eligibility code of their young person. I am a coach person, so I do like this one, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And we talk with parents and families about this being like a business meeting. When you're going into the IEP meeting, again, you are the expert on your child or your young person. Individualized education program. So parents, it is, again, it should be a unique plan for your child. This is the notice. When you get the notice that it's time to have a meeting, it will come either in the mail home with the child. It tells the purpose of the meeting, the date. Let the team know either by email or usually it's a return that you will be in attendance. These are the required components of These are the required components of the IEP. So the present levels, we cannot write a document for a child until we know where they are, because we want to know where they currently are so we can know, are they making progress? And if not, then if they're not making progress, then what's the why? And we have to shift. Goals are on there. How are we measuring? How do you know progress is being made, or that we might need to detour and figure out what's not working for the child? Supplementary aids and services. If they have transportation on the IEP document, do they need a harness? Do they need a seatbelt? What does their placement environment look like? What does the inclusive environment look like? Is it a large class? Is it a small class? What is the service delivery? So all of these things are required components within the IEP. Present levels. The reason this gets its own slide is because it's the foundation of the IEP. We can't move forward until we know where a young person is. Where are they starting? Once we know where they're starting, either with school assessments, individual assessments, private assessments, then we can know where we are going, because the foundation, the present levels will describe, what does a child do well? What are the things that motivates them? What are the things that, how do you really, are you able to work with them? What makes them happy? It drives the whole IEP, because we know where we're starting. There are, and for all our parents, there are timelines. When we have a concern and we bring it to the school system, first of all, you have to sign for your assessment or for the assessments of your young people. So you have to, sometimes it's having one meeting to, what, we need to determine, I think the school and you have determined that my child might benefit from some special education services. Okay, well, then sign to have the assessment done. The school system has a certain amount of time to get the evaluations done. So it is a process. You can't ask for assessments on Monday and expect them to be done on Friday, especially if you have more people, different offices that might be involved. If a psychologist has to come in, reading specialists, and so many different. So we're asking for the evaluation, and the school has to have a certain amount of time to complete the evaluations from the time of parental consent. So we're saying that, yes, we would like our child to be evaluated. The school has to have time to get the evaluation done. And this is all done within the IEP team. So before the meeting, you want to think about the goals. Before the IEP meeting, you want to think about the goals. And as we're looking at some charting the life course material in some of our trainings, that's what they use in DDA when young people are getting ready to transition out of the school system. It's like, let's start a vision. So what is your child's, if they're starting in infants and toddlers, what is the vision for kindergarten? What is the vision by the end of the year? So make a list of things you might want your child to do, their needs, their strengths. Talk with your child about about the IEP or 504. As they get older, have your children or your young person attend the meetings with you. And I will say this as a mom of a college freshman, it is so vital because they then need to know, and I don't know the age level of the parents that are on the call, but they will then need to know how to advocate for themselves. These are the things that I need on that level. I need a note taker. I need extended time on tests. If sometimes, and it's so hard, I'm working on the letting go piece, but sometimes when they get in college, if that's where they're going to end up, parents can't come in and speak for them. They're going to have to go to the disabilities office. So it's really good early on to have them start coming to the meetings. They don't have to necessarily sit for the whole meeting. Maybe they're just there for parental input section. And, tell me some things you like about school. Thank you so much for joining us. You might go back. You can go back to class, but it is okay for them to start attending the meetings. Confirm who will be in the meeting. Do not spring on the school system that you had a lawyer and a behavior specialist coming all at one time. Let the team know so that the school system and the team can have at the table who needs to be at the table to support your young person. Prioritize. My husband would laugh because I would go in long lists, but prioritize things that you might want to discuss. And, I know I had my 2 or 3 things that in my mind, we weren't going to leave the table until these things were discussed, but you have to prioritize it. Have it in your phone, write it down, but in some ways, prioritize. We can sometimes be all over the place. So before the meeting, it helps us plan, come together, think about the vision for our young person and where we might want them to go. Make copies of any document the school does not have, but you want them to have, and you want the team to consider. When you're getting ready for the meeting, let the school know in advance if you have any accommodations, if you need an interpreter, if you need to change the meeting day and time. And I know this can be real sticky. You have enough notice for the IEP meeting. And I know that sometimes our psychologist is in on Thursdays. As a mom who worked in education, but husband was a police officer, that did not always work for us. So I would have to say, okay, we can either, Thursdays does not work for me. What other day, how can we make this work? But my husband and I both want to attend. It's okay to ask that question of the team of the school if the day and time just really does not work for you. Ask a friend. Another just suggestion, don't go to a meeting by yourself, because no matter how much I might think I know about the IEP process, this is your child that we're discussing, and it can be extremely emotional. So the good, bad, and ugly. Once I took my dad he was like, I don't know anything. I was like, Daddy, just come and sit with me, because in that meeting, I am Marlo the mom, not Marlo the IEP expert. So ask a friend, another parent to attend the meeting with you so that you can process with them after. Just let the team know, this person is here to take notes or whatever you would like. But we always recommend you have someone with you at the meeting. What is the 5-day rule? You read them. When President Obama was in office, this rule came about. We cannot process information. You can't give me a report, educational evaluation on my son, and expect me to pay attention to what's happening at the meeting. So the law was put in place that schools must provide parents a copy of any assessments, data, at least 5 business days before the scheduled meeting. You have the right as a parent to cancel the meeting, change the day of the meeting if you don't have the documents ahead of time. What to bring to the meeting. A binder, the IEP, the documents that were sent to you, find your own way to organize information, whatever that is for you, because you'll get a draft and then it's finalized at the meeting. And so whatever way, some parents have had binders. I've seen some on the rolling carts, but just whatever way. So you're organizing assessments, evaluation. You know, by law, every 3 years, your child can get an evaluation. So things can get, if you're not it can be a lot of information, medical reports. But believe me, almost on the other side now, as they get older, you will need some of those supports. My son was diagnosed at 20 months and now going through things for adult services. I had to prove that he's had autism for the lifespan. So I went back to that binder that had an assessment done when he was in infants and toddlers. So, you know, much to my husband's Corinne's, to get rid of things, you know, it's with however you have to organize them, it is important to keep some of the documents. Be sure to include reports to the team ahead of time, so there's no surprises to the team. This is so important. Parents, if you don't remember anything that I've said, every IEP, again, I said every July 1st, usually MSDE makes some changes or modifications to the document. You want to think about your parental rights. Have it either typed up, you can send it to the school, on your phone. This is your thoughts. The school, the system, they're asking for your thoughts on your child's educational program. Peter did extremely well over the long break. Social stories worked well for him. This program worked really good. He did not really do well in a classroom where, you know, it wasn't an aid. Whatever works or does not work for your child should go in the parental input. So it's a piece that as a parent you create, and it's really important because it is your input on what's going on for your child, the good and the bad. During the IEP, you want to find out what does the day look like? If you don't know, what does the day look like for your child? How are assessments being taken in a classroom? If you don't understand, ask questions. You know, I don't understand this test result. Again, the expressive receptive language. What does that mean? Get answers to all of your questions, take notes. You can consider recording recording the meeting with the school's permission. You are a part of that team, and that's what we really try to stress to parents. It's not us against them. We are coming together, and personally, I start every meeting off with a picture of Matthew. You know, there might be times when we don't necessarily agree on A, B, and C, but we are all making the best decisions for Matthew. You are the expert on your child. So as long as you keep that in the forefront, I think that's helpful. We have to watch our emotions. It can be stressful because we always see our children, our young person, in the best light. And sometimes the evaluations can be hard to hear. You can know that they're doing something at home and it's just not reflected in school. So that can be extremely emotional. Ask for a break if you need to. After the meeting, of course, you want to thank the team, send an email to everyone, stay in contact with the teachers. You want to monitor your child's progress, and ask teachers what you can do for reinforcements at home. What do I need to know to be eligible for eligibility? If you disagree, do it in writing. I always say, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. I had a conversation with the teacher in the hall. It didn't happen. Did you follow up? Thank you, Ms. Payne. I noticed that when I stopped in to talk to you, this is what we decided on. Am I correct? Right. Everything in writing. Call us if you need additional assistance. You can request independent evaluations. Keep in mind, the school does have the right to accept or not accept the individual evaluations. Educate yourself about dispute resolutions. I don't know how many times I used to hear, I'm just not going to sign the IEP, or, you know, I'm going straight to, I'm going to get a lawyer. I'm going to go straight to due process. There is a I lost my word. There is a continuum. So first you have the informal meeting. Choosing the light blue gives parents and schools more control over the outcome. The more you move further into the dark blue, that's where you don't have as much say. It starts to get with your relationships with the school, because you're going into due process. You may have already gotten an attorney. So you want to try to stay in the light blue as much as you can. That's having these informal meetings. Some school systems have IEP facilitation. We're going to go to mediation. This is what we're seeking. And listen, this is what we're seeking. This is what the school system is offering. What does the child need? So having those conversations are really, really important. And then protecting the relationship, because your student is going to be in that placement unless you ask for out of placement services for a while. So advocating tips, and then I'm almost at my time. So these are some key advocacy questions that I feel like always helps an IEP team. It's okay to say, I don't understand. If you don't, what does that look like in the classroom? If we're going to take data on Johnny, okay, how are you going to take data on Johnny? What does that look like? Where will the other students be? What are we going to do differently? If you find that, because the students with IEPs, they get progress, almost like the report cards. So if you see that they're consistently not making progress, what are we going to do differently? How are we going to measure? How are we going to know? So these are questions that you can ask the team. What is the expectation of the student? What is the expectation of me? As a parent, what does that look like? Sometimes just asking why. Johnny does not qualify for this service. Okay, tell me why. Where is it written? Help me to understand the policy behind that. And I always, get some kickback sometimes where it's don't take no for an answer. What we mean by that is until you understand the reason behind the why. It was a group that a little group that I wanted to put my son in, not knowing the dynamics of the system, and they were hiring another person. Initially, I was just told no, and I was like, well, why? I think these are the qualifications. I think that he can get into. So sometimes just asking the questions, you're able to get the answers that you need. And if not, remember, there's always, mediation, calling for another meeting. And as parents, you can call for an IEP meeting at any time. I met one mom she had this running list, and I was like, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for his annual IEP. Like, you can call for an IEP meeting at any time. Oh, no, I didn't know that. Yes, and you're getting angrier with every list when some of the things actually could have been resolved just by having that discussion with the teacher. Document. Again, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Follow up with an email, write a note, but it needs to be written. These are some resources. I will send Beth, who I've been communicating with, some additional resources. We have the alphabet soup, which is all the acronyms you can think of in special education, articles, how to organize binders and things like that. I will put in the chat a link to just for our purposes, because again, we are a free service to parents and families. We have coffee and conversations. We have coffee and conversations for parents and families to help with share frustrations. These are our groups. If you go onto our website, ppmd.org, you can sign up. It's open to all parents and families. We also have for professionals, and we have it in Spanish for professionals, for families and professionals. We have a monthly newsletter. So if you're not receiving our newsletter, first page of our website, just sign up. And we have a bi-monthly Spanish newsletter. Our trainings are usually held in English and Spanish. We have hundreds of resources, Facebook, Anytime some of our parent educators are going to be out, we try to update our page all the time. YouTube channels, depending upon the age of your child, we have a playlist for transition. We have a playlist for Spanish. We have special healthcare needs, genetics. We have transition, early childhood, and healthcare. I touched on it a little bit, but that's a big piece of what we do as well. You know, your child, when they turn 18, go to school, do they know the medications they're taking and the doses? Everyone at PPMD, we make it really easy. I am Marlo at ppmd.org. If you know someone, it's usually a first name at ppmd.org. Marcy, I went 3 minutes over. I'm so sorry.
You are fine. All right. So Marlo went through the history of the IEP and the IEP process and briefly through kind of resolving disagreements. And so in working with her, our presentation is going to be a little more detailed about how to resolve those disagreements, kind of the informal and formal ways you can do that, and what the difference between several of the options are. So there are informal and formal ways to resolve disagreements at the IEP team table. Within Prince George's County Public Schools, the first way is, and I think Marlo mentioned this in her presentation, is always to contact your IEP team. If there's something you don't understand, if there's something you don't agree with, anything like that. And your next step is your Family Support Center. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the support of special education instructional specialists from our K-12 office, and then our compliance office as well. And then towards the end, we'll get into the more formal dispute resolution options, what those look like, and kind of who initiates that and what the process is. So your first stop is always the IEP team. And we really wanted to make 3 points. Number one, that you are a member of that IEP team. You're probably, outside of the student, the most important member of that IEP team. And our job is to assist you in empowering you to help in that decision-making process. Our mission is to make reasonable efforts to make sure you understand and are able to informatively participate in group decisions related to special education for your student. And part of that is providing interpreters for parents or guardians who are either deaf or hard of hearing or whose native language is not English. Our teams are well versed in how to request those interpreters. So if there's something that you need at the IEP team table, whether it be an interpreter or someone who can interpret English-wise, interpret like results of evaluations and things like that, the first place that you would go is your IEP team and your IEP chairperson or facilitator at your child's school. So we're the Family Support Center, and our mission is to help, number one, resolve concerns, to answer any questions you may have regarding special education. We have a lending library that has all information about different types of disabilities, sibling support, all of those things. But part of what we also do is help enable you to become the most effective participant in the IEP team. So sometimes that looks like consulting with you when you receive the draft of the IEP 5 days prior to say, hey, maybe there's a question you have here. Hey, maybe you told me your child has difficulty with that, but I don't see that reflected here. Another piece of what we do is attend IEP meetings with parents because, like Marlo said, they can be emotional. And oftentimes it's overwhelming. You're trying to get everything done within the time period. You're trying to make sure that everything is covered. And we can be there to help you remember things that we discussed, to help facilitate communication between you and the IEP team. And so anything that you would need to support you through that IEP process can happen through the Family Support Center. Sometimes, and a lot of the time when we receive calls at the Family Support Center, it's not necessarily for just basic support. It's because something has happened or there's something that's misunderstood in the IEP or in the IEP process, and something that needs to be looked into on a more in-depth level. And so sometimes when concerns are brought to our attention at the Family Support Center, what we do is involve our special education instructional specialists, who are central office team members who support several schools at the central office level, and or staff from our compliance office, which support in making sure that IEP teams are complying with what the law is and what's happening in the classroom or in the process for the IEP. And oftentimes that looks like requesting staff from those offices to attend IEP meetings. So that's kind of the informal piece of dispute resolution. And I would say that 90% of the time it stops at that. People will come to our office, families will call us or email us, and we're able to kind of facilitate the communication between the parents and the schools, or between parents and our central office team members that support the schools. But sometimes you don't agree with what's happening at the IEP team table, or there are things that are happening that you think are out of compliance with the law or with school policy or things like that. And so there are some more formal ways to resolve disagreements. And Marlo mentioned some of these, and she had the chart with light blue and dark blue, and which are kind of that continuum. And so the first one is mediation, and it's similar. I'm sure you've all heard of mediation in court cases. It's similar to that. It is a process that can be used to resolve disagreements between families of children with disabilities and PGCPS. It is presided over by an employee of the Office of Administrative Hearings who is qualified and trained in effective mediation techniques. It is at no cost to the parent or the school district. And we will provide these slides at the end, but there is contact information here. It is voluntary. No one is mandated to go through mediation. It can be used at any time to resolve disagreements under Part B, which is the school age part of IDEA. And it includes sometimes things that come up prior to a parent or a family filing or a school system filing due process. And the nice thing about mediation is it can be requested by you as a family, or it can be requested by PGCPS. If during a team meeting that a family disagrees with the IEP or the services, school teams are required to provide you with both an oral and written explanation of your right to request mediation, the contact information you saw on that last slide, and also information about free or other low-cost legal and related services available in the area. And a little later in the presentation, we'll show you where you can find those on our special education website. We talked about the Office of Administrative Hearings. That person is qualified and trained in mediation. The Office of Administrative Hearings is not part of MSTE. They have a list of qualified employees who have no conflicts of interests. They're not part of MSTE. They're not part of us as the LEA or the local education agency. And they are selected to be impartial to conduct the mediation. And then there's a link on this slide of how to file for a request as well. You can also choose due process. Due process is a more formal complaint, and it surrounds identification, evaluation, placement or least restrictive environment, or anything revolving around free and appropriate public education or FAPE. And the parent and the school involved in this dispute have an opportunity for a formal impartial hearing when you file a due process complaint. When you file those complaints, our responsibility as a public education is, again, to provide you with free or low-cost legal in the area or any other relevant services. Like any IEP meeting, we have a responsibility to provide you with a copy of the procedural safeguards. And then we also have a responsibility to inform you that there is the possibility of mediation should you choose to request it. And finally, as part of our process, as part of the legal resolution process, there is the state complaint. And so this really is if you feel that PGCPS has violated federal or state law or any regulation concerning special education, or we've not implemented what came out of a due process hearing decision, then you have a right to file the state complaint, and that is with the Maryland State Department of Education. And the information for filing a state complaint goes through the branch that actually supports us through family support, which is the Division of Complaint Investigation and Due Process. So a state complaint is exactly what it sounds like. It is a complaint. It is a written signed letter directed to MSDE, the Division of Early Intervention and Special Education Services, that alleges that the public agency responsible for education of a student with disabilities violated some part or some requirement of IDEA or any accompanying state and federal regulations. It can be filed on behalf of an individual student or on behalf of a group of students. And this is the really important part that I want to impart to you, because I know we just covered a ton of information, but this is all encompassed in your procedural rights and safeguards. There is a chart on page 28 of that information, and it kind of compares what these processes entail, who can initiate that process. There are time limits for some of these processes, what can happen, what issues can be resolved, what are timelines, not just for filing these processes, but to resolve the issues, and who resolves that issue, whether it be the mediator, the administrative law judge, the parent and the public agency, or the Maryland State Department of Education. And I want to take you here. This is our dispute resolution card here. And it puts the Maryland State Department of Education contact Family Support Service. Ken Hudock is the section chief there in the Division of Early Intervention and Special Education Services. And there are resources here for you for those formal dispute resolution and resolving disagreement processes that go anywhere from the state complaint procedures, Part B, which is school age, Part C, which is infants and toddlers, all the way down to a listing of free and low-cost assistance for legal representation. So let's return here. And I also want to show you some resources that are available as part of that dispute resolution process. I'm sure if you have a student in special education, you've all seen your procedural safeguards that are sent home with every IEP meeting. There is a brand new fantastic series from the Maryland State Department of Education, which is a new parental rights guide, which kind of takes the piece from the procedural safeguards and puts it in plainer language for parents and walks you through those processes. And then we also have a resolving disagreements flyer that is available that walks you through kind of the hierarchy that we took you through tonight, from the IEP team to the Family Support Center to the special education non-public instructional specialist or the special education instructional specialist, compliance, and then mediation, state complaint, and due process. And it has information on the side here of how to initiate those processes. Now, all that being said, we know that some of you are likely going to have very specific questions on resolving specific disagreements. So one of the things that we've done is created a Google form for us. Whoops, let me try that again. For us to contact you, and I'll put that link in the chat. And there's also a QR code for you to contact us if you need us to reach out to you for support. And I see that Marlo has also put in the chat some state complaint toolkit on their website. All right, so that is it for us from the Family Support Center.